All right, I'm incredibly grateful for my supporters, and this video is primarily directed at my most recent supporter that I've had, I realized that you were a supporter as of around May 9th or May 10th of this year, um, and I'm going to be directly addressing your concerns. And my other supporters may get value out of this. I hope I've got all of you back. I doubt that I've got all of you back, but everyone that I've got back means something to me. I'm going to explain more about the situation. One thing I wanted to do while it's on my mind, while I have the chance, is I'm a little bit bad off right now in terms of my condition, in terms of I'm very amped up with this. I'll be going over. I've got a presentation here where I go over my distress right here with this existential terror and this physical depletion. These elements are have really taxed me, and it's like this thread. I won't talk about it. The point is, I don't feel like digging up the post where I share this post. But there's one post on here where I'm talking where I say I quote a post. In the quote post it says, I want the lies. I want the lies the porn industry tells me to be true, or I want the porn industry's version of the facts to be true. Something like that I say. I want to be very, very clear here that I misspoke slightly there, where I spoke in a way that is misleading um, to some degree, in that I say I want. Now let me explain something. What I'm really saying there, what I intend to convey, if I would have spoke precisely, I would have said that the porn industry's version of the facts would be a better set of facts for me if I got to choose. It's like if I was born into a choose your own adventure world, and I get to pick a world where the porn industry is between a world where the porn industry is as I have characterized it, or the alternative is to pick a porn industry a world as the porn industry has characterized it. Okay, that what will be in my favor would be the world of the porn industry puts out there, their conception of the facts. Okay, that if given a choice, I would choose that. Okay, because I would it's the I would choose a world that doesn't involve harming women, doesn't involve all this stuff, and that doesn't give me a decision to make, and doesn't have the porn industry is an industry by and large, and people will bring up the nuance, and they'll bring up the exceptions, like this female oriented stuff that's directed at females, and as if this is some kind of like like 50-50 industry or something like this. I acknowledge that there's all kinds of stuff out there, and this includes whatever you want. This softcore stuff that's directed at women, which has nothing whatsoever semblance of the stuff that's out there, majority. Okay, and all the people out there that want to criticize me, but I'm talking about the mainstream porn industry. The porn industry, that if I go to a tube site or I go to whatever, okay, that it's like it's a world that's all about men. Okay, it's all about men. So I'm, as a man, a world that's all about men is in my favor, as long as it doesn't do harm to women. Okay, but unfortunately, the actual, that the porn industry wants to sell you on a version of the facts. This world that's all about men is all about women too. It doesn't hurt them. It's all they want to portray it in this light, and of course they will acknowledge that it's not all perfect. They got their whole thing. Okay, and so that would mean, obviously, I'm a man. That would be a great world for me. I mean, if I didn't give a shit about what's right and what's wrong, then either one of those worlds, it's like, who cares? Who cares if harm's done or not? But I care about what's right and wrong. Okay, so given that, for me personally, somebody cares about what's right and wrong. Okay, which is to remove the wrongs from this all about men industry. And I can be part of an all about men, whatever, in whatever capacity that I want to. That's what their version is preferable. Now, that is my precise position. It is somewhat misleading to say that I want their version of the facts to be true. I want the porn industry's lives to be true, or whatever, however it is I say it, because that can imply that I spend as much as like 1 nanosecond of my life. That I spend as much. I mean, I don't spend any time. That I spend, that I spend some amount of time, any amount of time whatsoever, thinking, man, life's really crappy. This is a real disappointing thing to me. I wish the porn industry's version of the facts were true. Okay, and of course, there's all kinds of people in the porn industry. There's a gazillion of them. Okay, but I'm talking about this view that's promoted by certain people, and you've seen some of these videos I posted. They got people that I've showed you, these people that are talking. They got this magazine editor stuff who want to like make everything sunny and good and fun, and it's all fun and games. It's all nothing. It's all everybody's happy. This type of thing. Okay, that yeah, I have no concern whatsoever at all in my life at all if that version of the facts is true, because it's blatantly not. It's like a massive waste of time to even consider that. Okay, I do not sit around wishing for realities that are not true. Okay, it's like what's the I just can't do it. Okay. I understand that people out there have brutal lives. Not everybody's like me, obviously. I'm the different one, okay, and I'm not judging anybody. I'm just saying for me personally, I don't like the way, I want to be understood accurately, and I don't like to, misconstrue myself. So I don't give a damn if their version of the facts is true, because it's not. It's not, end of day. Okay, I live in the world, as I said in that post, I live in the world of the reality. I live in the real world that none of us have a choice but to live in. Okay, we live in the real world, whether we like it or not. And again, it's a waste of time. I don't see any point whatsoever. What am I going to do? And also, it becomes like impossible to sit there and wish that something. It's like I mean, it's like there is no debate. There's in my nuanced view as to where the harm's at. What's the breakdown of this? All this stuff. There's some details to sort out. Okay, but this other thing that comes, from these people that want to paint it. It's just there's no chance in hell. It's just off the table. Okay, and so I was going to be clear about that, but I don't want to spend, because this is about my supporters explaining stuff to you. And here people might want to hear that I've got this nuance thing where I want these empowered women. It's like I want the empowered, happy women, the women that are happy in their lives, the women that have this empowered thing here. It's like I'm not their opponent. I want them to be able to have the life that they want. And I've seen these women. They got they got a mortgage on $1 million house, or they got $1 million. If their industry was wiped off the face of the earth, they're going to be wiped off the face of the earth with it. They're going to be foreclosed on their big fancy house and all the nice things that they've got, and they're not being harmed and stuff. Well, the answer there is I'm an idealist. It is part of my orientation, even though that I understand that an absolutely perfect world is not possible. But I like a world where nobody's parade is rained on. It doesn't have to be. And the sense that I've had most of the time, it's like if we were to reduce this industry to the women who are happy, who are not being exploited, who are long-term happy, who are not being duped, who are not being bait and switched, who are not being all this stuff, it would be so tiny as to like amount to nothing. Okay. That there's room for them in the world without causing massive devastation to women as a whole. The way that this industry has over time in its current form, in the form it's been in for the past 5 or 10 years, or actually let's see, about 10, 11 years. Okay, it's worse and worse over time. That back in the 1980s, Playboy magazine was a big thing, and they had these other competitor magazines that were or that they had other magazines. I don't know how you consider that. Okay, but they were it has an impact. So when pornography is out there in the world, it has an impact on the lives of women. There's no way around it. It's just going to happen. And one of the impacts it has is it affects a men's willingness to commit to one woman. It affects men's their aversion to commitment. It affects men's willingness to have a relationship with a woman. Okay, and this thing with having a relationship. This arrives later on the scene in the 1980s. It's still it's still, the idea of not having a relationship is not on the table hardly at all. It's like a it's like a niche, or like a very, very of infrequently occurring thing, or it's as infrequently occurring as it has been for most of the time. Okay, that you look at women and their well-being in the dating and relationship world. Like, you go to the 1950s. In the 1950s, okay, women who wanted to get married were getting married within 3 months. Okay, and then things change over time. Now, even in the 1950s, so there are women having sex outside of a relationship. This type of thing. And I don't think that it was that much more frequent. It was more frequent, I'm sure, but it's not like a 5x or 10x, or whatever you want to say, in the 1980s. But it starts to be sometime after the year 2000. It seems like, I can't remember the specific timeline, but you have this hookup culture come up. You have Tinder coming up. Okay, and once that hits the scene, plus and everything, pornography affects everything. Um, um, then it starts to it drives the dating culture. It drives the relationship culture. It's a driver that drives away from commitment to one woman. It drives away. It pushes away, drives away, drives the scene away from emotionally investing, having a relationship, all of this stuff. Okay, that's the effect that it has. Okay, and you'll see a correlation with all of this. But going back to the 1980s, it's like the effect was not so brutal, even as widespread as it was back then. The women could still, there was having an effect. Okay, it was having an effect, but women could still have a relationship. They could still get married. Okay, in the 1980s and the 1990s, I was born in 1980, so yeah, it's like I turned 10 years old, um, in 1990. Okay, um, and but I was yeah, obviously, I'm a kid. I'm around all the people in my family. I see, I'm around people generally, of course, I didn't know much about it then, but I could just recollect on it, because I got a good memory and stuff, and I see how things were then. Okay, and then in the 1990s, it's like I entered my teenage years. I entered adulthood in 1998. 1998. I turned 18 that year, and um, um, just looking at it, and over time, it's like the effect was not so brutal. Okay, and there are all kinds of factors that go into this, all kinds of factors. Okay, but it would be a very small thing, and that it's not going to have a brutalizing effect on women, the way that it has. Which there are a variety of effects. I could go on this forever. Okay, but that's the answer to that question. Is that in the world that I picture, where everything's done the way it ought to be, where people, and I don't believe it's like, I don't want to impose my values on anyone. I don't want to impose my values. It's like the people have differing values and differing opinions as to there are some people who consider this just immoral on its face to participate in this, as a female performer in any context whatsoever, whether anybody else is being hurt or not. Okay, this is something that's offensive to their personal values. And my thing is I believe in having a separation between what's enforced by the law versus what is somebody's choice about their personal values. That I believe in freedom, and I believe that everybody benefits from freedom. Okay, because when you have freedom established, it like keeps your own values from being permanent, from being under threat, like on an ongoing basis. Okay, because when morality starts to be legislated to an excess, becomes the domain of the state. Okay, then it starts to be who's in power, who's in control politically, and over someone's lifetime, people can be surprised. Okay, when the state, at any level, at the national level, the state level, a nation or a state, at the nation level, state level, federal, state level, or in another country, whatever level, state entities, nations and states, in the United States. Okay, that a state entity is when you have a principal of a state. Okay, a principal of a state, and you have a government as an agent. The government acts. The government acts on behalf of the principal. Okay, that's when I'm talking about a state entity. We have a government, a state, and a government. And the state is the principal. The government acts. The state acts through its agents. The government. That's how that works. When the state is involved, when they're legislating morality, they're legislating individual values. The people, whoever they are, and then in that period of time, or whatever, in any given period of time, they're going to be people who are fully on board with the state's conception of morality. Okay, now those people, they can see it's like, this is great, this is the way things ought to be. Okay, I mean, I sure as hell would. If my personal conceptions of things, that's just how it works. Okay. But they can, things change over time. As you can see, things change. We have the pendulum swinging. We have different, you never know what's going to happen, and down the road, they can find themselves in a horrifying circumstance, where where the power balance is shifted. And so to me, it's like the perfect thing. Of course, our founding fathers in the United States recognize this. I think that's why you see a lot of this type of thing of freedom of speech, freedom of religion, all this enshrined in the Constitution, because they got this point. Okay, these people knew their stuff. Okay, these were unbelievably brilliant men. Thomas Jefferson is a blatant genius. Okay, Thomas Jefferson is a genius. Period. Okay, um, 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 that it's better to have certain things where the government is just hands off. Period. You don't even raise the debate about whether the government gets into this domain, and and that's how you have security, and you have a free market of ideas, and a free market. It allows everybody to live by their own values. That the state's role is to police the things that are harmful. Okay, that nobody's rights are absolute. There's nobody's rights are absolute. They have to exist within the confines of other people's well-being, other people's legitimate rights, and and so in that framework, which I personally, I don't see, if a woman wants to get into this industry, be a performer, and she's got a great life and it works for her, um, um, you know, it's like I see nothing wrong with that, whatsoever. Not that I can think of, and and again, I want to emphasize here. I want to emphasize. I I, I get really, really, before we get started, please, if you're watching this video and you not saw my other videos on the porn industry, watch my other ones. They're on this thread. Okay, I'm uploading these to my website. Okay, I want to make it very, 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 very clear that I do not want any of. I'm aware, and who knows who can watch this video. If you're a young woman, if you're about to be a young woman, if you're approaching age 18, 19, these ages, or whatever age that you are, I do not want anybody being hurried through the doors of this industry on account of my words, on account of anything that I say. I am dead set. I don't want anything whatsoever to do with that. Okay, and I'm sitting here, I'm talking about a nuanced view. Okay, and I've got a whole video where I go over this. Okay, but I talk about these empowered women who have nice lives and make money. Okay, you forget about those women. You're not going to be one of them. The odds are against you. I don't know what to say. Okay, but please, I've got a whole video on this. If you're watching this, but I want to make sure to have a nuanced view. And when I'm talking about these women that are privileged and happy, I'm not talking about a 60-40 split between the ones who are being mistreated and the ones who end up harmed in the long term or the short term. It's not a 60 and the 40% empowered. It's an extremely small number. Okay, but please watch my other video about this. Okay, but I do not want. I'm sitting here talking to people who are supporting me in a certain matter that I'm in, and extraordinarily I'm serious. I'm conversing with them. That's the purpose of this. The primary function of this video and the other videos that I'm put out. I'm not giving anyone advice. Okay. But if anybody's out there watching this, you're thinking about getting in this industry, okay, for whatever reason, Okay, if I were to give advice, or if you want to take it again, at your, I take no responsibility for anything. This is for, I guess well, you could say this is for entertainment for everyone, or whatever. This is, I am not an expert on anything. I have no license to opine on law or you name it. I'm not a medical doctor. I'm not a licensed practitioner of anything. Okay. But if I were, if anything is to be construed as my advice, is to stay the hell away. I've got a whole video on this, okay? But I don't want to get too long-winded here, okay, on this. But I've got my views clarified there. Now I'm on to this, on to your concerns, my well-being and distress, and I'm doing these in a certain order because um, um, some of these are prerequisites to the next one. So I'll show you the topic 2. Okay, thank you. Okay, your concerns and your specific concerns. So this is about your concerns generally. This is a thank you for all you've done. I'll show you some appreciation. Incredibly grateful for you. But this right here has to be discussed first. That'll help you understand some of this stuff down below.